Got it. I see a kitty cat.
And your pals are back. The show is back. Your pals, Tommy and Val, we're back. Professionals and animal lovers show. What is it all about? Where have you guys been? Well, we'll get you up to speed on that. We've been in the lab putting some things together for everybody, which we're going to roll out very soon. But for now, who are we? Maybe you never heard of us before. Well, that's Valerie Heffron, and I am Tommy D. You'll hear from Val in a second. But look, this is a journey we've been on. It's a journey I've been on. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have a dog if it wasn't for this show. I wouldn't have been out yesterday afternoon at an adoption event for a friend of mine if it wasn't for this show. There's a lot of things that wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't have done an event 3 weeks ago with Contour Mortgage if it was not for this show and if it was not for the inspiration of my friend and pal, Val. What's up, Val?
Hi.
Hello, hello. I'm going to tell them what we do on this show, Val. Look, we
Okay.
believe, gang, you know this if you've been with us before. If you don't, well, now you're going to know it. We believe that the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. So let's support one another by building this compassionate network so that everyone wins.
Especially the animals.
That is right. Look, we do three main things on the show. We do a lot of things on the show, but three main things: we learn, we educate, and we advocate. And today's episode, we're going to get right into the fun and we're going to get right into speaking with our guest, Allison Matos. What's up, Allison? Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're jazzed to have you. I mean, we've met through different ways, and you know, you and I just reconnected a couple weeks ago, and I go, wait a minute, and we started talking about something, and we'll tease a little bit. The name of this episode is Foiled Again, and we'll talk about that. I thought that would make Allison smile. Shout out to Daffy Duck, the whole deal. Allison comes here from Life Cycle Information Management, where they keep and restore records and information, that records and information management, that is. She'll tell us more about it, but it's certainly germane to the conversation we're going to have. What you do in business is right on and what we're going to talk about today. So let's dive right in. I know Valerie and I have a lot of questions, but why don't you, Allison, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, and let's get into this conversation of foil and what it's all about, what it means, please.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So, yeah, I've been in the records and information management space for about 15 years now. So businesses and government agencies all have information, whether it be in the form of paper, electronic records, data. And it's so important, especially in these times, to make sure that that information is protected and properly managed throughout its life cycle. So when we say life cycle, we're talking about from the day that information is created, how it's used, how it's maintained, how it's shared, all the way through the time that it's supposed to be destroyed, right? So that's what life cycle does. We help businesses get through that entire life cycle so that they can respond to audits and lawsuits and anything else that they need. And through FOIL, I have about 8 years of experience on the other side of FOIL, right? So I was the one who would receive the FOIL request, and then I was the one who would find the records, review them, and see what we could release or
So
what
hold on
we...
one second. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's just rewind for 1 second for our audience who may or may not know. What does FOIL stand for? What is FOIL?
Yeah, not
So
just something to wrap up your sandwich with and you only ate half of it, right? Let's be honest. Not that's it. You knew it was coming, Val. I knocked it out. We won't do it again. All right. What is foil, Allison?
So FOIL stands for the Freedom of Information Law, and that's our New York law that gives the public access to public records. So that FOIL law, every state has its own FOIL law. It's called different things in different states, and that trickles under FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act, and that is for federal agencies. So here in New York State, we use FOIL.
Very good. Thank you very much.
So you've told me about this, Valerie, for years, and you're always like, Tommy, you know, what we should really be doing is helping people learn how to foil. And I
Yes.
made jokes about it, but but in all honesty, it's super important. It goes to, our own rights and privileges as individuals. We don't have to be government officials. We could be just regular citizens who want information. And you've told me about this, and I'll be honest, how did you even learn about it? Because I want to hear from Allison, but how did it become something that was in your vernacular?
Okay, I love this question. So first of all, let me just say that I want a t-shirt that says foiling is cool or something like that. It's cool to foil, or like everyone should foil, hashtag I love foil. Anyway, so the reason I started foiling was, of course, some animal advocacy issues. And I have to say that not only do I feel that everyone should know how to do this and do it, but also I would love to get into schools and have a curriculum and teach kids that are about to graduate high school, like, in their senior year, because they're right on the cusp of voting for the very first time. So I feel like they should have to submit one foil before they graduate so that they know the tools and they can understand the power of information at your hands. So anyway, there was an animal issue back in 2017, and I ended up just having questions. And of course, when you go to your local government or municipalities, they're going to say to you, you have to foil that. So that means you can get your answers, but you have to go through the written process of a request. And so I will warn you, it is somewhat of a rabbit hole. Like, one foil usually comes back and then it leads you to more questions. So then there goes another foil and another foil. And before you know it, if you're like me, you have, this is for 2020. This is my foil folder from 2020. You will probably start getting a lot of information.
It sounds like what happens to me on YouTube sometimes. When I
Yeah.
start learning about one thing, I end up 3 hours went by and I didn't
Yeah.
get anything done, and I have more questions than I started with. Is that what it's like?
It can be, especially if you uncover things that you weren't really looking for. So you stumble onto things. I'll just use one quick example. Out of curiosity, I was foiling the town of Hempstead animal shelters. They have a separate account called Tails for Hope, and that is a fund that's where donated monies go to. So I was curious to find out where they were spending donations. And to my, it was not a good surprise. I uncovered that they were paying to send out adoptable cats to a feral cat sanctuary in Maryland, which, for anyone who doesn't know the cat world, it's like if you take an indoor cat who's domesticated and completely dependent on you for food and shelter and everything, and you put them into a feral cat outdoor sanctuary, it's actually horrible for them and possibly even fatal. So we uncovered that. And not only was the shelter doing that, but they were also doing it somewhat by breaking the law, because they didn't include CVIs. Not to get too technical, but it's necessary paperwork when you transport animals out of state. So that was a really big, unfortunate discovery, but that's just one example of what FOIL can do. And I want to be clear, it's so many different departments and agencies, which Allison would know better than I. You can FOIL the Department of Agriculture and Markets. You can FOIL anything where taxpayer dollars are funding anything. You can FOIL.
I want to go back into that, Allison. We want to hear from you on that whole thing Val was just saying, but I got to bring this up because it's important to do from a marketing perspective. I heard this on either Bloomberg 1130 or 1010 Wins this week. There's a for Valentine's Day, there's a shelter and rescue that is doing TNR, okay, for cats. And if
Yay.
you make a donation and you make a donation, they'll name the animal that they TNR in the name of an ex, like an ex relationship of yours. And the joke or the cuteness behind it is you make this donation, they name that animal after it's been TNR'd after your ex, and it's like, just to go, how do they say it? Not everybody should breed. So like your ex should not breed, and therefore this animal who's named after your ex should not. What, Val, I meant to text you about that, but how cute
What
is that?
shelter is that?
Gotta figure it out. I don't know.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that
I
great?
like that.
I thought you would like that. That is really cool, man. So Allison, what do you have to add to this whole foil thing, please?
A lot.
Yeah, so Valerie is absolutely right. Any government agency at the state, local, or federal level can be foiled, right? So We'll get into how to best do that, how not to spin your wheels so much, what to actually ask for so that you get a record. But yeah, anybody can go for any type of record.
Yeah. And I'll say also, I find it interesting. I had someone tell me that they were going to submit a FOIL regarding a PTA issue. And I didn't realize that at first because I'm not a parent, but also I've only foiled like, government, municipalities, whatever. And I never thought of schools, but I found that very intriguing too.
Yep, absolutely. They're right under that umbrella.
And the process is universal, right? It's the same across the board.
So yeah, and we'll talk about that too. So the sort of the trick is finding the record access officer within each agency, right? And that can differ. Sometimes it's under legal, sometimes it's under audit, sometimes it's under, I mean, it could be really anywhere.
Okay.
So step one is finding where the FOIL actually needs to be submitted, because a lot of times what happens is that information may be hidden, maybe on purpose, maybe not, but maybe on purpose. And people think that they're submitting a FOIL if they're just submitting it to whatever contact information they find on a website or something like that. And then they never get a response. And then it turns out, well, if you don't submit it to the record access officer, you haven't done it right. So that's step one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, well, let's get into the process itself, right? Like, so I was fortunate enough to know a couple of people who are avid foilers, and Diane Madden being one of them. So they walked me through that process. But for those out there who may not know an avid foiler, where do you start, and what do you expect, and then the next step and the next step?
Sure. So I don't know if we want to zip through those slides or
We
not.
could
That
definitely
sort of
do that.
tells.
We've got
Okay.
slides.
And we do have
Yes,
slides.
that
Just let me
tells the
make a
story.
comment. Yeah, Allison, let me just make a comment because some people are only
Sure.
going to listen to this. So,
Sure.
some people are going to hear this as a podcast, so you're not going to actually see the slides. But what you all can do is go to the Facebook link and go to our website. We'll share this out, and then hit us up. Send us an email at jovi@pal-show, jovi@pal-show, and we will make sure you get these slides, because this is
Yes.
some of you may be only in listen only mode, as they say. So, but I am sharing right now. So it says here, take it away, Allison. Foiled again.
Yes, exactly. How to get the records you really want, right? And it's a little trickier than some think. So, Tommy, this picture of a chocolate bar wrapped in foil is for you today.
Well, I appreciate
And
it. I can't eat that though. It looks delicious, but I can't eat it from where I'm at. It's only a picture.
you're not the only one to associate aluminum foil with foil. When I first started working in foil, I did have some friends who asked me why I was working in a cafeteria, and we had to backtrack a little bit. But here we are. So foil. So we talked about what that means. That means that the public can request access to government records to get any information they're trying to get, whatever it be, right? So you can foil any record, right? Now, by record, we're talking about anything that is held, kept, any information rather that is held, kept, produced, or reproduced by, with, or for an agency in many types of physical forms, right? So sometimes you have reports, sometimes you have paperwork, pictures, drawings. It's regardless of format, right? The trick, though, is don't ask a question. You have to ask for a record. You have to ask for information. So, for example, if I sent a FOIL and I said, yeah, I want to know how many parking tickets your agency gave out over the last 6 months, you're not asking for a record. And they're going to come back and they're going to say, it's not reasonably described. And that's going to be the end of it. And for people that don't realize that mistake, they give up. Or they give up, right? So we want to make sure that we're always asking for a specific record, don't ask a question. And, to Valerie's point earlier, when you finally get a record, you can look it over, and then you could realize you might need to request more records, right? So, and that's fine. but just don't ask a question. Okay. So getting back to that, is it reasonably described, right? So we talked about, asking for any and all records. You can't ask for any and all records. It's not enough information for somebody to go find something, and they can say that's not enough information. So you want to try to be as specific as possible. You want to try to provide dates, names, if you can, any identifying information that you could think of so that they can't come back and say you didn't provide enough information, right? So as specific as possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
So talking about the level of specifics that you're really asking for, I'm almost inclined to believe that the body who you're asking this information for wants to say no. Am I just reading between the lines here? And they'll find it sounds like an insurance company, like, well, kind of, well, no, that's not a valid claim or something like that. Is that, or am I just making that up in my mind because maybe I'm a little cynical right now?
So you're not making it up. Sometimes that's the case, but sometimes having it not reasonably described for an agency is valid. So, I've worked in with agencies and businesses who have thousands and thousands of records, and some are stored on site and some are stored with offsite vendors. And if I'm accepting your request, if you're not providing me enough information to go find that record somewhere, I really legitimately cannot help you. So it really is important to describe it as best as possible.
Thank you for that. That's great.
Okay. So we want to reasonably describe our records. We don't want to ask a question. And again, we want to be as specific as possible. So, I put an example here about contracts. So, instead of saying, I want to see contract between so-and-so and so-and-so, a lot of this information is sometimes publicly available. Maybe not the contract that you're looking for, but I don't know, a vendor number or something like that may be found in a database somewhere. If you have a vendor number, provide it. So again, anything that you can provide to the agency so they can find your records in a timely manner is always helpful.
Ooh, I like this one. Tricks of the trade. I like this.
Be polite. I like that one too. I always start off my FOIL request with please provide. So it's, and then, yeah, please provide. So you're not asking a question like, can you please provide? But it's just like, but it's still got the word please provide.
Is most of this done, because here's what I'm hearing really quick, and I think this has to be in writing. Is that fair?
Yes, a FOIL request must be in writing.
Yeah, so okay, because I know sometimes like I hear different people on the phones when they want something from somebody, like, and when they say like, hey, listen, you guys did that or you guys did this, I don't think that's the best strategy. I am always like, hey, Allison, this is Tommy. I'm hoping you can help me out. And I'm thinking it's got to be that same kind of thing. What is it? You get more flies. I don't really want flies, but if I wanted them, I would use honey apparently instead of vinegar. I don't think flies like vinegar, but right? Isn't that you want to make people want to help you? And I guess so the politeness, but also even the delivery of the message, right? And the more information, like you said, the more specific you could be, the easier it is on them, right? And won't go to the top of the list of what I got to get through if it's easier for me to deal with, right?
Yep, absolutely. You're absolutely right. So something like, please provide records relating to A, B, C, D, and D, E. It really is that simple, to start. And then we see what happens from there, right? So then we talked about finding the gatekeeper, finding the record access officer. Once the record access officer has your FOIL request in hand, they have 5 business days to respond. Now, that just means they have 5 business days to say, hey, we got your request. They do not have to provide any records within that 5 business days, which is a common misconception. They just have to say, hey, we have your request and we're processing it. Then they have 20 business days from that day to get back to you with records, with a denial of your request, or an extension. They need an extension of time to find the records for some reason. And again, that could go back to, if there's a voluminous amount of records that they have to go through, they may need an extension or whatever the case may be. So again, 5 days to acknowledge your request, 20 business days thereafter to provide a response, a record, or an extension.
I will
What
say
if they
this.
don't? Sorry,
Some
Doc.
municipalities are better than others in terms of their systems, right? So like example, I'll give credit where credit is due. Town of Hempstead has right on their website a FOIL submission template, and you fill out your name, your address, whatever, and your request. And as soon as you hit the send button, you get an email receipt acknowledging your request, as well as like a FOIL request number. So it's instant. Other townships or government branches, you might have to send in an email, and they might not respond for that 5 days, and then they'll respond, and then the clock starts ticking. So they're all a little bit different.
That is true. And I mean, we love an instant response, right?
Yeah,
But
because the clock starts ticking, right?
Right, exactly. But I mean, in my experience, that's not typical. So
What
just
if
mark
they
it out,
don't-
tickle it on your calendar, right? As we
What, yeah,
say.
what if they
Yeah.
don't get to you in those 5 days, like you're talking about? So I mean, you say they have to, but like my answer is great, they have to. But who's going to hold them accountable? Like, what's your next move if they don't get it to you?
So if you don't hear a response within 5 days, you're technically denied and you can make an appeal. And there's like information online, New York State Freedom of Information Law Act, information law, whatever the website is, I can send it to you guys. And it's very simple to make an appeal, and you're making an appeal with the FOIL officer of New York State, basically. So you can appeal if you don't get a response after that 5 business days, because then you're technically denied. Then if you receive a response and they say, we're denying you under exemptions A, B, C, and D, you can also appeal that. What you cannot appeal is if they come back and say there are no responsive records. So again, that's why it's super important to make sure you are describing the records as best as you can.
I had one of those. Well, I will say foiling, as much as I love it, can also be extremely frustrating, because sometimes we've gone past the due date, and then we're following up with the right department. And the challenge that I have with FOIL is that there's really no enforcement other than if you're going to file a lawsuit. So that's the part that drives me crazy. For example, I went back and forth with the town of Hempstead. This was so ridiculous. I had foiled based on a speaker at a meeting in, I think, 2017. She was an employee at the shelter, and she was expressing her concerns over the fact that there was no written emergency policy, like in case of emergency, fire, whatever. And so it was like a year later, and I was just curious if they ever did that. So I foiled the in case of emergency and or fire policy, and then it went past the due date. And then I emailed about, hey, we're past the due date, what's going on, kind of a thing. And it took months of that. And I called up New York State's open meetings law officers.
Right.
And they wrote in an email that it sounded to them something called constructive obstruction, but like intentionally ignoring the FOIL requests and follow-ups. Then I went to the appeals officer, and he did the same exact thing. And so then eventually I actually got somebody who filed an Article 78, which is when you're going to the courts. This took 2 years, and the courts finally demanded the answer, and then it came back, there's no policy. So they had no records to begin with, and instead of just saying that, they dragged it out for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Crazy.
I mean, I wonder if it was so detrimental that they didn't have this policy, that they didn't want to just say, we don't have this policy, and they wanted you to go through all those
Probably.
motions, because a lot of
Right.
times people are not doing an Article 78, right? They're just kind of
Yes.
throwing their hands up. Okay, so that's probably what happened in that case. They're just
Yes.
dragging you out.
Their
100%.
expectations are you're going to give up. Their expectations are
Sure.
they really.
Yeah.
I would think in 99.
They don't know me very well, Tommy.
No. They didn't know you. They didn't know you about. If they knew, now they know.
Now they know.
Now they're like, oh, just give her what she wants. She ain't going away, man. She's gonna be killing us for this thing. That talks about the Article 78. I'll go back to our slides too, Allison, because I'm sure
Sure,
there's
yep.
want to share from there too. So we'll get to that. Exceptions are not the exemptions are not the exception, right?
Right. So let's say I receive a request for a record, and yes, it's releasable, but there's information in there that you can't see. Well, what can't you see, right? So under New York State FOIL Law 872A, there's a bunch of different exemptions, right? So I'm just going to go through them really quick. 872A is that the record or information found in that record is exempt by a state or federal law. Okay. So basically, if it would be redacted or withheld under FOIA, you're not getting it under FOIL. Okay. Then we have 872B, which is a fan favorite. That's an unwanted invasion of personal privacy. So somebody asked me for a record about you, Tommy, and you work for the agency, right? So you are a public servant for that agency. The record may be releasable, but it has your social security number in there and your birth date. And we're not releasing that, right? So we would redact that as an unwarranted invasion of your personal privacy.
So it would just be like black, like it would look like black outlines, like when you see
Yep.
the JFK assassination, when like there was like one line and it said like John F. Kennedy and everything else was redacted. And I'm trying to be funny. That just like it was. It's one of those. Thanks, Val. One of those things where like, obviously I wouldn't want my social security number out there, so I appreciate that. And it still could be valuable to that person who's asking for the FOIL to be done, because that's irrelevant. My social security number doesn't really help or hurt whatever it is they're trying to figure out, right? So it just gets rid of things that wouldn't be appropriate. I like that. That is cool.
Right. And, back in the day when I was doing the redactions, I had to redact with a Sharpie marker. And then I used to have to make the copies, and I used to have to send out the paper. And some of these requests were so voluminous that I would literally get high trying to
Right on,
oh my God.
Right on, Allison.
Nowadays, most agencies use, there's a program under Adobe where you can electronically redact.
Right.
Though, I don't know about you guys, but like the markers we had in grade school, not Sharpie markers, but they smelled like, one smelled like grapes, one smelled like limes.
Oh, I used to love those.
Wasn't it great, Val?
Yeah, watermelon.
Yeah. Those are great. I'm gonna find those again. I mean, I have these Expo markers that I use. I don't know. Nah, just
I have a really good foil. Can I share another foil?
Yeah, foil away.
Because I feel like people might be able to, get some ideas. First of all, I just want to say that every single animal that's at a shelter, a municipal shelter, they have a name and a case number. So if you're ever interested in just submitting your first and only foil or whatever, if you just want to try it, go pick out a dog or a cat, get their case number, their name, and then ask for, or foil, please provide the intake, medical, and case notes attached to this case number. And you say either canine or feline. But anyway, check this one out. This is huge. So back in 2019, I don't know if you guys remember this, but Hill's Pet Food had a massive recall. Okay. What's interesting about this is that the shelter was feeding Hill's pet food. And so Diane Madden, I have to give credit wherever it's due. Shout out to Diane Madden. She went to a board meeting and expressed concern because there were reports of all of these dogs getting sick in their cages, violently sick, and even having to be sent out to emergency vets. So when she was at that meeting, she asked, you know, could it be the food? Is there a recall? To which the town response was absolutely not. They would have had to have tell us, etc. So what did I do? I foiled for the contract regarding their purchasing of food, and I got back all the SKUs. All of these highlighted SKUs were on the recall.
And what is that stuff that you have? They took delivery on those Hills products after they said they did. Yo, she's a badass, gang. Don't mess with my partner in this. Don't. She will come after you, man. She's gonna get the information. Allison,
I'm gonna
what
get
do you
the
think?
information, and there's more on the other side too. But what really drove me nuts was that I also called Hills because I was like, I'm trying to find out if you know, you have recalled food at this shelter making these animals sick. And long story short, they don't really have to talk to me, but they did say that every single vendor that they have was notified by email about the recall.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing that we uncovered, is that they basically lied to us.
So they knew they had the product.
Not basically, they lied to us.
So they took delivery on a product, right? That they
Yeah.
didn't know anything was wrong with. Then they
And
found
Hills
out.
offered to send a rep to pull the recalled inventory.
So you know for a fact, just if I'm hearing you correctly, that even after they were made aware that the product was making animals sick, that they continued to serve it to the animals?
Correct.
Yeah, that's not great. That's not
No,
great.
it's not. It's not.
Not great, gang.
No. Yeah, that
Not a
was
good look. Not a good look, shelter.
that was a brutal meeting. The next meeting after we got all of this information, it wasn't brutal for me. It was brutal for them.
I'm sure. You know, one thing before you jump in, Allison, is I want to say this. I think we need either a bell, because there used to be drinking games. Now I don't drink. It's been a long time since I drank alcohol. But and shout out to anybody else who doesn't drink alcohol, and shout out to you if you do drink alcohol. But I'm wondering if this is a party game. Every time we say Diane Madden's name, we have to like ring a bell
Yeah.
or something like this, or like a buzzer, or bing 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 bing, or I have to make
I've learned quite a lot from her, and I continue to do so.
She's a great lady, no doubt. Allison, what do you got on this?
Valerie, I am curious, did you wind up requesting copies of any emails from Hills to the shelter?
Yes, very good question. Not only did actually that was I believe Diane foiled that one, but we got the exact email address, their domain, and we submitted the time range because we had that that was given to us from Hills, and they just never responded. Same situation. It went to the appeals officer, never responded. And I don't think anyone ever filed an Article 78. There's only so many. I mean, it costs money too, you know, and the person that I got to file the Article 78, he already had 8 or 9 going on at the same time. So it's something that we did walk away from that one, but it's also like, we know the answer.
Right.
You know, we have verification from Hills Pet Nutrition that they absolutely emailed the shelter and offered every single one of their vendors, not just Hempstead,
Right.
all of them, to pull the inventory to make sure that they wouldn't continue distributing, you know, the food.
Yeah.
So
That's great. That's great.
yeah.
And that's such a great example of how foil can really, you know, help open the eyes of the public and
Yeah.
make things that may be wrong right. So that's really fantastic. That's a good win.
And these are just regular, no, you know, no offense, but these are regular people. They're not attorneys, gang. So
That's right.
Right.
People who just take it as their civil duty. Now I have to interrupt this conversation with something very important, because it's been a rule of the show since we ever did the first episode of the show.
Yeah.
If you enter the screen, we must know your name. You must introduce yourself. So Allison, who is that there with you? You like how serious that was? And then I just want to know what the cat's name is.
This is my cat, Noah.
Noah.
He loves screen time, no matter what type of call I am on. Sometimes he's more well received than other times, but I figured he'd be okay today.
On this show, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, yes. His mom was a pregnant feral that was at my husband's work site. And he says to me, I think this cat is getting fat and I think I should trap it. So I gave him a have-a-heart trap. My husband, who knows nothing about animals, took the trap to work, captured the cat, brought it home one Monday night, and he said, here you go. I'm running out to play darts. Oh, Okay.
Yeah, here you go, kid. Figure it out. I got to throw some darts, man. I understand. Yeah, yeah. I
I
have
give
friends
him
trapped all
credit for
around.
trapping. That's
Yeah,
Right
amazing.
he
on.
did a
Shout
great
him
job.
out. Yo, he's a give him the old that's
Yeah.
just another pal story. That's
Oh,
just another pal story. We love that story. Oh, there she goes. She's gone. She's probably getting her pom-poms.
I
So
gotta get the pom
so
pom.
Noah, do we name Noah's mom?
Yeah, so Noah's mom, and who I still have, her name is Bootsy, and
Oopsie.
she gave birth to 5 kittens. We kept 2, and then my friends took the other ones. So they're
Got it.
all
So
happy, healthy.
Noah,
Bootsy, Noah, and Georgie is the other boy
oh,
we
Georgie's
kept.
with you.
Yep.
All right, so we got Georgie and Noah, and Bootsy's the mom, and I love it. So here's what I would teach your husband real quick. First of all, I've never trapped a cat. Valerie's got the pom-poms out. Shout out to your husband for great work. I would teach him this, whether it's a cat or a human being, don't ever say they're getting fat, man. I don't know a lot of stuff. I know that. Like that's just something that's dangerous. And another move on that is, and you can't win in this particular situation because you're not going to tell that cat, hey, you're starting to look pregnant either, because then if she's not pregnant, now you just called that cat fat. Listen, my friend, I don't know his name. What's your husband's name? Shout him out.
James.
James, I don't even have a solution for you, brother. I really don't. But thanks for the work you did. Just don't say anything. Just put the cat in a cage, bring it home, and go play darts. That's the best move. You knew
Yes.
exactly what you were doing, my friend. What a good man, though. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I know that because I know my friend Hef. Shout out to Dr. P.A.L, who, this was not his plan, I don't think, to become an animal advocate. But then he meets this lady, and I don't know if it was her plan from the beginning either, but then now they are animal advocates, right or wrong. I mean, and they shout out to the canine shop of Greenville, South Carolina, because they're in business because of this show.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you one really quick funny story. So my first real experience with animal advocacy, I mean, I dabbled before. Like my friend Joanne Winkhart took me to like a protest here or there, protesting against the circus, whatever. But in Oceanside, which is where we lived in 2017, there were 3 protests, 3 consecutive weekends on a Saturday in the middle of the summer, like the last weekend in June, of course, the weekend of the 4th of July, and then the following weekend. You should have seen Barry's face, my husband, when I was like, I need you to come to the 3rd protest. And he was like, you've got to be kidding me. He's like, it's like, this is not how I want to spend my summer. I'm like, I understand, but the animals need us. Just come for an hour.
Yeah, and again, this is, you know what it is? Everything in life is about timing, right? And especially if you're in a courting phase of a relationship, I'm sure he's like, oh man, I really like this woman. I should do this, man. I gotta go do this stuff. Like maybe like, later on in life, you'd be like, dude, I'm not freaking doing that stuff. But again, it's all about timing, Val, right?
Absolutely. No, and the difference, it's just hysterical to me. I was there, I had because it was like the 4th of July weekend, whatever. So I had on like this big, Uncle Sam hat, whatever. I'm
No.
handing out little American flags. I got signs all over the place. And I'm like getting people to honk their horns. And Barry stood there like this with a sign. He's like,
Gosh. Yo, listen, I get it. Barry, I never thought I'd be in front of a Starbucks protesting Starbucks. Now I am a Dunkin' Donuts guy. Shout out to Dunkin'. But Dunkin's getting themselves in some trouble too, charging me extra money on the oat milk that I drink. But I was out there with John DeLeonardo, my friend,
yeah.
Humane Long Island, and I'm not gonna tell you, but someone was dressed up as a cow, and we were handing out these drinks in front of Starbucks because there's an upcharge. Like they upcharge those of us who don't want cow's milk in our coffee. And we were handing out these little cans. But that's what, Valerie, that's what you do to people, man. This is all your fault. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I couldn't be happier about it.
Oh, so good Cheeto. Cheeto's very happy about it too. If
Yeah.
you were, I would say manipulated. You would say persuaded. But either way, I got to go. What's the deal?
Coerced,
Coerced, yes.
I have to say though, but seriously, when you really start to see things and that you can't unsee, you also realize the value. It's priceless of every single person's voice. And one of my favorite moments last year, it's bittersweet though, because of course it comes on the heels of a tragedy. But when we saw a 25-year-old young lady from Point Lookout get involved because her cat was picked up by animal control, brought to the Hempstead shelter, and killed in under 24 hours, thereby breaking their own 5-day hold. You got to give pet parents a chance to find their lost animals, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the first time. There was another family, and we all came together. I flew in to go to a meeting. We had news coverage there, but to see a 25-year-old get involved, use her voice at the podium, as well as her mother and her friends and her boyfriend and everything, it is so incredibly powerful. And certainly the town did take action. They severed the contract with the vet practice that did that to both their pets. But just that's what we want to spread. We want to spread the empowerment factor, because we really can. Yes, we can change the world.
No big deal, gang. No big deal. Just changing the world.
Yeah.
Allison, you should probably write an article on that whole thing that Val was talking about that happened in the summertime. We'll talk about that offline, because that I know that's one of the things you like to focus on, is getting the word out and getting that messaging out there. There are a couple more slides in your deck we can go back to.
Sorry.
No. This is the show, Val. This is it. We're gonna change it. It's basically stream of conscious. It's just basically whatever goes on in our heads we say, which is basically my whole life. So I need to peek ahead, and I see you got a couple slides left. So let's get back to that, and then we can just do Q&A from Valerie and Tommy right back on that. All right, let's do it. So the next one you had is put your knowledge to the test, right?
So actually, Tommy, if you don't mind, if you could just go back to the previous slide, there are a couple of what I consider pretty important tips on here that I think that your listeners would probably need to know. So we talked about the unwarranted invasion of personal privacy, and we used basic examples like a social security number and a birthday. But sometimes when an agency claims an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy, it's really subject to their interpretation. So, I don't really have a specific example, but if you or somebody requests a record and the entire record is exempt for personal privacy, you can appeal that. And they would need to tell you what happened there. Redaction is one thing, but withholding an entire record is a different animal. So if you, no pun intended. So if you feel like, you are, if there's a blanket denial of records, and there shouldn't be, you can appeal that. Again, agencies can redact. They don't have to just say absolutely not to anything. So just keep that in the back of your head. There's another exemption for trade secrets. A trade secret, it can't be disclosed if it would cause substantial injury to a competitive position or somebody involved in the contract, right? So again, it's the same thing. Is what they're denying, if it was released, would it actually cause substantial injury? Sometimes yes, but sometimes no. And again, if you're not sure, you can appeal. Appealing is free, right? You can always appeal. So as we're talking about it, you're bringing me back. So I know that for most agencies, if you are denied, you can appeal, I think, to the overarching record access officer of that agency, and then you can go to New York State, right? So there are levels there. So if you believe that there's a record out there, if you believe that something has been withheld and it shouldn't have been, if you believe that something has been redacted and it shouldn't have been, just appeal. It's not until you get to that Article 78, the court case, Val, that you were talking about, that you'd actually have to, shell out money for, legal and that sort of thing. So and the other thing too that may hit home for some listeners here is, are records compiled for law enforcement purposes? So once an investigation begins, agencies like to use this exemption, but it has been held that records created in the ordinary course of business are not necessarily automatically exempt just because an investigation has begun. So there are so many different cases of redactions and exemptions and denials that you can go on the New York State FOIL website, and they have lots of opinions, and they have a nice search tool. So you can go in and you can ask for animal records, and you can see any opinions that have been written about animal records, and maybe that aligns with what you're trying to request.
I just realized we should get someone from Open Meetings Law to come on the show. I feel like that would be
wonderful.
I don't know what that is, so help the rest of us out with that one.
So I know that Bob Freeman used to oversee the freedom of information law for New York State, but he has since left. So
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure who took his spot. He was excellent, and he would always jump on calls with requesters and agencies and really try to help them get the records that they need. So somewhere in that website, I'm sure we can
Yeah.
find that would
I
be.
was in touch with a Kristen somebody, I think
Oh
O'Neill.
yeah, that's ringing a bell. That might be who took his place.
Yeah, maybe I'll get her. Oh my God, that would be wonderful.
So that would be somebody from the state, you're saying?
Yeah,
Yep, New York State.
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right, well, we do know
Constructive
some
denial,
people.
I think that's what it was called. That's what it was called.
Okay.
We have
Constructive
some
denial.
connections, Val. We have some connections, man. We know some people.
We have certainly experiences.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I got some text messages I could drop out there. Find somebody.
my goal right now, Tommy D, is to get you to submit one foil.
Yeah, talk about acronyms, and let me drop an acronym on you all that's going to tell you that somebody else is going to have to do the foil alongside me. It's called ADHD.
Okay, no problem. I have walked quite a few people
spending
through
that
it,
much
and
time on this. So I'll pick a topic. I sound like Linda Richmond, coffee talk. Pick a topic. I'll pick a topic, and then somebody can help me foil
okay, you
the
got it.
topic. Deal.
Um, I'm going to mention one other foil. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. There's another slide. Sorry.
There's something else. Sure. I think it's
Yeah.
really just a
Okay.
recap of what Allison wants to make sure we understand some of this stuff. So hit us with these
Yes.
points again, Allison, please.
So this is a quiz for you and your listeners. So tell me if somebody asks for all emails relating to, or I'm sorry, all emails to and from one specific employee, right? To and from Tommy to Valerie from 2018 to present. Is that a reasonably described request? Are you
I
going to
would
get
say
your
that's too
records?
much. I say no because I think
I'd say no. I think it's too voluminous.
yeah.
Exactly. Never say all. Don't use that word
Okay.
because all of a sudden it's going to be too voluminous. It's not reasonably described.
I love
Got
that
it.
word. I've never said that word. Let me just say it.
This
Voluminous.
is fun. There's a quiz.
So you got the first one right? How about if somebody requested the names of all employees on site, whatever, at a shelter for the period of June 8th to June 23rd. So it's a 3-week period. The names of
I
all
like it.
employees. Are you going to get any records?
I like it.
I think it's fair, but I bet you they're going to redact some information. There might be some personal information with those records. Like if it says if they were payroll reports when people clocked into the building or something like that. But I think they can give this to you. The only thing I see is it says June 8th. Should it say June 8th, 2022 to June 23rd, 2022?
Sure. I mean, that's a technicality, but the problem here is, again, we're asking a question, really, right? What are the names of the employees? You want to say, is there a sign-in sheet for employees that were on site? Make sure you're asking for a record. Look, some agencies will not read into this too much, but some might, and they might come back and say, we don't have anything responsive, or you didn't describe it, and then you're just wasting
Okay.
time.
Okay.
So
Got it.
so any records relating to employees that were on site for a time period of blah, blah, blah. And
Got it.
however that is, maybe they have a sign-in, like I said, a sign-in sheet or whatever the case may
Time
be.
sheets,
So you're
yeah.
asking for, again, it's the same data, but you're asking for it differently. You're saying I need a record that shows the employees that were on site from June 8th to June 23rd, not
Mhm.
the names of them. Because
Right. We don't answer questions.
Right.
Agencies don't answer questions.
Not answering questions. I'll find you the thing you're looking for. Right.
Right.
It is. Okay, cool. Got it.
Okay. And then we sort of talked about this earlier, but not any intake records, veterinarian records, behavioral notes relating to Marcy the dog. Is that going to be responsive?
I like that one too, although I would prefer a case number.
Exactly. Anytime you can provide a case number, because you know what, they may come back and say, we have 10 Marcy's, you're not getting anything. Or
Yeah,
if you
that's
could put
true.
some kind of date range around it, is this going back to the dawn of time? The other thing
Right.
too is when you're requesting a record, it's not a necessity, but it's important if you can to understand what their retention periods are. And this is what I do a lot with life cycle information management. So agencies are not required to keep records permanently until the dawn of time. Very few records have a permanent retention. So there may be a case where you're trying to find behavioral notes from a dog and you have the intake number and you have the name, but you're asking 15 years ago, and the records could have been destroyed, defensively speaking, 10 years ago. The agency may not tell you that. They just may say, we don't have any records. And that's enough to throw you in a tailspin. But so you may need to know how long they are actually required to retain those records for. So again, it's just another piece of that puzzle.
Yeah, that's a great point, and spoken like a former FOIL officer. Let me mention one other FOIL, although I don't have it in front of me, but I know it like off the top of my head. So by foiling, the request was for a copy of all of the preferred partners to the animal shelter. This is an animal show, so I can go on about the shelter, right? Preferred partners meaning rescues and not-for-profits that the shelter has a written partnership agreement with, which means that what they should do is try to place their animals and get them into rescues. And a lot of rescues have fosters, and so it helps clear out cages. Anyway, we stumbled onto a rescue that it turns out the shelter was paying $3,500 per dog, which doesn't usually happen. Normally these partnerships they're free. The rescues want animals in their rescue. They want to help animals, so they pull them from shelters, and then a cage opens up and another animal comes in. So that raised a red flag. Additionally, the fact that it was relatively far from the shelter. It was hours away in Utica, New York. So long story short, we started inquiring about that, finding out that the reputation was not wonderful at all. And we started to raise some concerns. And don't you know it, we were ignored. And then a few months later, that rescue in Utica, New York was shut down for deplorable conditions, animal neglect, and animal abuse. So my message to anyone who's out there listening, if you love, the animals, which we know you do, foiling is not just for, to find out information on a house you're going to buy or something like that. Foiling can actually really and does help the animals.
I love that. I love it. I mean, listen, I just want to show the final slide, so you can see.
It's the final slide.
Countdown. Cha, cha,
Yes,
cha,
Valerie.
cha, cha. Gonna make me sing, and I have no choice once I get going in. Allison,
What is this?
tell us about life cycle. So if you want to follow up with Allison, it's Allison Matos, as in the month of May. Matos at lifecycleim.com. The website is lifecycleim.com. Who is that? Another question. Who's the dog that is trying to kiss you in this picture?
So that was a rescue. Her name was Karma. She was very sick when we adopted her. I didn't like where she was when we found her, so we had no choice consciously to leave her where she was. We adopted her. She lived 3 years with us, and then she passed away. But she she was certainly one of my favorites. We have lots of animals. She was a very special dog. So that's Karma.
Okay.
And then
Tell us. So hold on. Now the neurons are firing like crazy.
Oh no.
Brain. So first of all, how many? Okay, I need to know what Life Cycle IM does. You and I had a one-on-one conversation, but our listeners need to know what you do and how we can help you in your business.
Yes.
How many animals? Because like I have a friend, she's got a Komodo dragon and she's got some cats, or it's not a Komodo dragon. It's a bearded dragon, but it'd be cooler if it was a Komodo dragon.
He loves this joke. He
those are
loves
badass.
it.
Yo, because have you seen those? Anyway, Allison, what do you got? Talk to me about the animals. Let's go.
Well, today we have 2 dogs. One is a senior we adopted when he was 12. We gave him a bark mitzvah. He's going to be 14 now. And we just adopted, against maybe my better judgment, a puppy, because I forgot how crazy puppies are. His name is Schmoopy. If you had any Seinfeld fans, his name is
Totally.
Schmoopy. He's very cute, but he's a pain in the butt. And then, of course, the 3 cats, Bootsy, Noah, and Georgie. If it were up to me, I'd have 5 million animals, but my husband James is allergic, so we have to
James,
play
I
it
hear you,
smart.
bro. I had to go see somebody the other day. They had a cat. I was very anxious. But yesterday, I got to make a shout out real quick to my friend Deborah Whitney over at Positive Rescue, Positive Possibilities Rescue. I will share the screen again of this because if it wasn't for actually Val, if it wasn't for the Family Pet Show, we had somebody on here on our show from the Family Pet Show, and I didn't go out to Suffolk Community College. You see my screen, gang, right? We'll see it now. This is Deborah's organization. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for that, you hear me say that forever, gang. But if it wasn't for me doing the show at Val, and it wasn't for me and my two daughters going out to the Family Pet Show, and Deborah Whitney there with this guy Cheeto, my guy Cheeto, that's his Instagram if you want to watch him, my guy Cheeto. But if it wasn't for all that happening, we wouldn't have Cheeto. And then 2 weeks ago, we did an event with Contour Mortgage. Shout out to the guy in Contour Mortgage, Malia and Arthur and Jenny Nielsen and Mike Greenlick and my friend Christine who works over there. And if it wasn't for the event we just put on, I mean, I wouldn't have been out yesterday delivering a check on behalf of Contour Mortgage for $2,500 that we raised that night. Now,
Yay.
Val, you don't even know the story. Let me tell the story. Sadie, who is the mom of these little Chiweenies, which are they're like Chihuahuas and wiener dogs, so they call them Chiweenies. They had these four. I'll send you pictures later on. They had these four little puppies. I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of events. Never had dogs, never had puppies at an event like this, right? And they're like this big. If you can't see, pretend I'm holding I don't know,
A tennis ball.
it was like more like
Soda can.
like a gerbil. They're almost like gerbil, like they're tiny, and they're getting passed around. Anyway, so that was so special. Sadie and her 6 puppies were found in a garbage pail by the garbage man, by sanitation, when they were picking up the garbage, and they found them, and they were down in like Atlanta, somewhere down south, Georgia, somewhere in Georgia. I don't know if it was Atlanta. They make their way up to Long Island, and they go to a networking event because that's what we do here on Long Island. We network, especially hang out with the nonprofit sector connector. But we connected them, and I'm telling you, it was amazing. And as a result, some of those puppies have already been adopted. But yesterday it was a big event, and we went out there to deliver the check. So, Allison, first of all, there's a question here somewhere. Tell us what Life Cycle does, so how we can help you, who we can connect you with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So Life Cycle Information Management does exactly that. It helps businesses manage their information. So, we were talking about how records and information should not be kept forever. You run into a lot of trouble. And that's not for just government agencies. That's businesses across every industry. If you receive a lawsuit and you have to find records, do you know where they are? Is your information protected and secured? And that's what we do. We come in, we start by doing a gap analysis for companies and let them know where their risks are, where their gaps are, and then we help them build a great program for their records. So that's the information management space. Again, that's available to any business throughout any industry. And then specifically for FOIL, look, we're here. If somebody's having a hard time making a FOIL request and needs some guidance, send us an email. If you're an agency that needs records management because you're getting a lot of FOILs and you're not sure, how to store your records, how to find them quickly, give us a call. We're here for that too.
I think Hempstead should hire you.
Hey, that sounds fantastic.
But going back to also your clientele, are there any industries in general that you seem to get a larger response from? I'm trying to ask you, I guess, who your most common denominators are, right? Like, is it mortgage? Is it accountants? Is it doctors? Do you have a sweet spot?
It's really any business that, is subject to a law, a rule, a regulation. We're here to help. A lot of times those laws have retention requirements. So for, in the banking industry, there's SOX that says you have to keep records for 5 years. So we help with that. So all across really the span of industries, there are these laws that companies really need to follow, because if they don't, they can find themselves in some trouble. So we're here for anyone. We do, like to work especially with newer businesses that are just starting out, because information management is best when you're proactive not reactive. If
Mm.
you're in trouble, if you're in a lawsuit, an audit, or this, that, there's a disaster, there's flooding, we're here. But to set up a nice program at the get-go is always the best way to tackle this. So
No doubt about it.
we're here.
It's funny, like we connected because I don't know how we originally connected, but you reached out to me recently, maybe a month ago, and said, "Hey, I'm launching this new business. I want to connect with you from a networking perspective." And something, I don't know if it was the email, maybe it was your email address, and I go, foiled again. I was like, wait a minute, we need to talk about foiling. And we went down this whole rabbit hole, if you will, about that. And I was like, we got to get you back on the show. We got to talk about this. How did we connect originally? I don't remember, Val.
Probably John DiLeonardo.
You think so? Oh, maybe
I'm guessing. I'm not sure, but
maybe when we were doing the Compassion Awards, maybe John said reach out. Allison, do you remember?
No.
yeah, I'm
Doesn't matter.
guessing,
don't.
John, but I will, let me just say one last thing. As a reminder to anyone who's out there listening, anyone who's come to the Compassion Awards, which we're doing again this year, anyone who's been a guest on our show, here's what we're doing. We want to support each other in all ways, advocacy, certainly, and business, right? I just got my hair cut at my salon because how did I choose them? They are constantly posting adoptable animals and they do adoption drive events there. So my point is this: if you are in need of this service, records retention, etc., then why not use and support someone who's compassionate to the animals?
100%. 100%. That's what we're doing here. We're building this community. And yeah, people are going to have to buy services from people. It's what we do every day, right? You get a choice to make, you have an opportunity. Support people that are supporting the same.
And if you want pizza, go to Reno.
Yes, yes. If you want, that's
Not Reno, Nevada, though.
Yeah.
Joanne's Gourmet
No,
Pizza.
I mean, you can go to Reno, Nevada. They have it. I was out there a year and a half ago. They call it Nevada. So I got there and was calling it Nevada, and the guy goes, "Dude, stop! It's Nevada, like matter." And I go, "All right." So Nevada, and then I said Nevada the whole time I was there. All right, couple things we got to button up the show.
Yep.
The markers we were talking about, I Googled them. They were called Mr. Sketch. So Mr. Sketch markers, apparently they're still out there. They have watermelon, grape, and the black one is licorice, which I remember really enjoying sniffing that. It was a great smell.
I don't like that one either. So I'll get a set and I'll send you that.
They don't want the black marker. A couple other things we got to talk about. The organization I started talking about earlier is called Homeward. All right, come on, Tommy. Homeward Bound Pet Adoption Center in Blackwood, New Jersey. And this is something I'm pulling right off of the internet and what they said. As part of their Valentine's Day promotion, Homeward Bound Pet Adoption Center in Blackwood is offering to name a feral cat after a donor's ex, then neuter or spay the cat in question.
That's great.
That's what they put on their Instagram. Because some things shouldn't breed, is what they joked on their Instagram. How freaking cool and funny is that? So it requires a $50 donation. I don't even know. It doesn't even have to be an ex. Maybe it's just somebody you think should not procreate. Send them $50, give them a name, and that's that. And gang from Homeward Bound, if you want to hook up with your pals, let's talk about that. We'll get you
Seriously,
on the show.
Whoever thought of that is a genius.
Yeah, they got some sense of humor down there in Blackwood, New Jersey. Allison, anything before we leave?
No, sir. But if anyone needs any help with foiling, any more questions, even just a simple question, you want me to look over a request or whatever the case may be, just shoot me an email. I'm here.
That's a friend.
Let's foil everybody.
He's a friend of the show. What'd you say, pal? I talked to
Let's foil everybody.
No,
we need a foiling party.
Foiling. Let's get foiling. All right, and I leave you with this, and it is not just my singing, although one day I might sing you this. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Treat your pets well, treat your humans well. Make it a great day, everybody.
Hashtag yay Gandhi.
Love you all. Later.
Thanks, everyone.
That was fun.